Hey, it's Craig. In this video, I wanted to just demonstrate how you can create an effective ActiveRain blog signature. And this will go along with the blog post that kind of details some of the steps, but I wanted to show you step by step how you can do this for yourself. A blog signature is going to be a very effective way to, after a person has read your blog post, to be able to show them not only who you are, where you are, what you do, how they can contact you, but also if they want to read more information about you before they reach out to you, you're going to show them how they can reach out to you. So it's not a hard thing to do. It's something that you should be doing, but we're going to look at not only making a blog signature, but doing one that's going to be effective. So let's take a look at this. I wanted to use the analogy of a postcard, because if you've ever tried to create a postcard, you know that you're trying to get your message across, but you don't have a whole lot of space, and yet there's just enough space that you can not only define who you are, but interject some different thoughts to try to connect with the person that you're going to want to be doing business with. So postcard's a great size because it enables you to have some visual elements, throw out some questions for them, make them start thinking about things. You can see in this case we have some images, testimonial, and so forth. But it's not too much information. It's just enough information to try to capture their interest and to get them to proceed. But the point is, if it doesn't fit on that particular size postcard, you're going to have to drop, if you had an idea to tell them all kinds of things and go on and on and on, the postcard size is limited. You just have to pick out your best items, and that's what you're going to have to stick with it. And that's the analogy that I like with the blog signature as well, because we could go on and we could almost write our whole resume of our whole life story, but we don't want to do that. It's just the end of a blog post. We want to introduce ourselves but to give them something that they can grab onto. So if we think of the postcard size again, translate that over to a blog signature. Here's the blog signature that we have for Cat, and it defines those key elements again that people can grab onto. And again, it's just the right size. It lets them see who you are, what you do, and it lets them to connect with you. Now, if we look at these basic questions that we could just basically ask, if we're including these things in our blog signature, then we've done well. First of all, we define who we are because it's the end of the blog post. You want to definitely indicate who you are, your name, where you are. So if real estate is very localized, obviously, so you want to define the area that you work. Otherwise, they might have just read a blog post and they won't be able to work with you, though, because they're not in your area. But you hope to find, obviously, the ones that are in your area, and those are the ones that are going to connect with you. So if they do want to reach out to you, how do they contact you? Well, make sure you have the phone number nice and easy to see. Having a way to email you is also very important. But if they're not ready to call you or email you yet, don't lose them. So show them your social pages that you're actually active on. Don't show them anything that you're not active on. Show them how they can get to your blog, how they can get to your website, and so forth. So those are the key elements. And you can see here with a few different blog signature layouts how you can be creative and answer these basic questions in your blog signature. But for the purpose of this video and the blog post, I wanted to keep it as simple as I could and yet still be an effective blog signature. So you can see I have it's a simple but effective blog signature that has those basic elements in here. And this is what I'm going to be demonstrating how to create in this video. So we define who, the cat. We have the where, the Kalispell. We have the services that are effective that we want the person that's reading this to be able to connect with. How else to find Cat's stuff, the phone number, and the email. So let's look at how we can create that. Now, first of all, I want you to visualize, see the red box here. There's an element in web design called a table, and a table basically just has defined areas in it, and we call these areas cells. So we're going to create a table with two cells, left and right, and that's going to enable us to put some of this content over on the left side, and then we're going to put this content over on the right side. But we're not fighting, this content's not fighting with this, trying to figure out how to get this to be over here. This works independent of this. And we're going to see how creating a table is going to help us to solve that problem. So I'll show you how that works. But first of all, the table itself, I just want to illustrate that the table that we're going to create is actually going to have a fixed width to it. We're going to use this width 636, and this is counted in pixels or dots across the screen. But we're going to define that width because that's the width that the ActiveRain site at the moment has enabled for us to use in a blog signature. So if we define a table with that width, it's going to enable us to work within that space, but we don't want to go over that width because otherwise it's going to give us a scroll bar at the bottom of our blog signature, and that's not a good thing to have. So we're gonna work with that and to avoid that. So let's jump over to ActiveRain and let's dive into this and see how we can go ahead and create this. Now, what you want to do is in your ActiveRain pages, you'll have your menu at the top here. You come down here, and if you go to My Home, your My Home page is going to have some of the actions you can take over here on the left-hand side. And if you jump into the My Blog, and then inside of My Blog, you can click My Blog Settings. And then in Blog Settings, once that loads, we're going to scroll down here, and you're going to see an area right here that you can define your signature. Now, unfortunately, this editing area is a little small. Now, you can drag this corner down like this to make it a little taller, and that does help, but it still feels like you're in a cramped space. And this toolbar here is sort of a limited set of tools. Unfortunately, it doesn't have even things like creating a table and so forth. So it doesn't have some of those basic things that we really need to have. So what I'm going to show you to do today is you have to activate your signature in this space here, but you can go ahead and compose your signature by doing this. If you head up to the right post button at the top, you're going to create a new draft blog post from scratch, and you could just call it draft blog signature, something like that. This is a post that you can create to compose your blog signature. You will never publish the post, but you can go ahead and save it as you go, and that way you'll have a nice safe copy of your signature, and you might want to revise it in the future. You can come back to your draft posts and revise it in the future. But we're going to go ahead and but this now editing area is much bigger, and it has a full set of tools that we can work with, including the table tool. So the first thing, in fact, that I'm going to use is this button right here, where we're going to create a table, like we've been talking about. So we're going to create one of these tables, and you see these tables can be as many rows and columns, cells that you want, how many across, how many down. But all we need is 2 cells. So I'm going to just take this and set it as 2 across, and that will go ahead and insert a table, or this structure that contains our cells, and the cells is where we're going to be typing on the left and then on the right. But the very first thing I'm going to do with this table is I'm going to go ahead and set its width. So if I click on the button for table properties, I'm going to change its width from 100% to type in this number 636, and that represents how many pixels this table is going to be across. Go ahead and save that, and now you can see my table. It looks like it shrunk over here off of this edge here, but that's all the space that we have for our blog signature. So we don't want to go over that. If we're going to use a table, we want to fix that width. Now we can go ahead and put stuff in the left and the right hand side. In here, I'm going to just start typing what I want to put in my signature. So the first thing is I'm going to put the name, and the next thing is I'm going to do broker realtor. But right off the bat here, we're going to see. Well, actually, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to do where she's working. So let me go ahead and type this in. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. So the first thing we can start to do here is, well, we can start to make things bold. That's pretty easy. I can highlight her name, make that bold. I want this text to be bold. But right off the bat, we're going to see something when we're working with websites is every time that you hit the enter key, it's considered a paragraph. And a paragraph, if you were to write a paragraph of text, you would want, let's say in your blog post, you would want to, every time you'd hit enter, you would like to have this space between your paragraphs, because otherwise your paragraphs run together visually, and it makes it harder to read because everything's running together. But in this instance, we actually want it to be on another line here, but we don't want this extra space in here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to backspace here, but instead of hitting the enter key, I'm going to hit shift plus the enter key. And what that tells the editor to do is it says, I want to go ahead and create a new line of text inside of the same paragraph. And that way, the space that falls after the paragraph is down below that. So it's shift enter here, and that will force this to another line, but it won't have that extra spacing between the items. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. So let me put my cursor here, backspace up here. Now I'm going to hit Shift Enter, and that way you see it's going ahead and it's making a nice tight, it's making it a new line, but it's nice and tight. It doesn't have that space in between. Now I'm going to go ahead and let's start to edit this a little bit. I'm going to highlight her name, and we're going to go ahead up to the toolbar here and pick the bigger size because I want her name to stand out nice and big. Let me go ahead and hit Enter. And I'm going to put in the descriptive text about what she does, and that way she can connect with the people who are looking for that service. Now, this text here, I'm going to go ahead and do a center alignment. So I'm going to put my cursor inside that paragraph, come up to the toolbar, hit Center Align. That will go ahead and center align that. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert an extra space here with an Enter. And then I'm going to put my cursor here, and I'm going to use this item here, which is called a horizontal line. And it's just going to go ahead and draw a nice horizontal line here. It's not necessary, but it just adds a little bit of visual element to this, breaks up the different components of this side of the page. Now, at the bottom here, I'm going to go ahead and, again, how do we connect to you after we're done reading the blog post? How can we connect with you? So we would do, let's say, if you whatever social sites you want to include, and I'm going to go ahead and an About Me page link, which could be your profile if you don't have an About Me page created yet, where that would be a separate conversation, but you could link to your profile page. How about my blog? That would be a good place to have that as an option, and your website. Those would be some examples of some different things that you could give links to. Now, right now it's left justified, so I could highlight this and go ahead and do center justified. And then you would basically go and create links for all of these things. So if you had a link to, let's say, your blog site, you could highlight that and insert a hyperlink. So go ahead and insert the hyperlink, and it would be https:// whatever, and you could just paste that in. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick one of the ones that I have here, and then you can see that's what it's going to be linked now. And then you might want to make that bold, perhaps, so it stands out a little bit stronger. And then just do that same process for each of these things. Go ahead and create the links. So there you have it. We've created pretty much the left side of the blog signature. On the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and come over here, and then we're going to insert the photograph or the portrait. So I'm going to go ahead and use the insert image. I've already, in the library, I was working with this earlier, so I already have Cat in the library here, so I'm going to go ahead and just pick that. You would just upload your portrait if you didn't already have it in your library. It's going to come in at the size that you had created the portrait, which may be too big. So then you can go ahead and take your image and size it down to the size that you feel is a good size for you. And then what you're going to go ahead and do is that image is sitting in basically, you can see I can move my cursor around that image. I'm going to go ahead and go to the end of that image and hit an Enter, and then I'm going to put in her phone number. And here's a point in time that, again, if you hit Enter or Shift Enter, you're either going to get a bigger space or a smaller space. So I'm going to do a Shift Enter, and I'm going to go ahead and put the words call or text. And I like call or text because if you're using a mobile number reference, people will often appreciate that they can text you because they may not want to just call you out of the blue. They'd rather perhaps text you and say, hey, I'm interested in talking to you. Give me a call when you can. It might be a friendlier way for them to reach out to you. So it's a good option to give them that option, or let them know that that's an option if they choose to use that. I'm going to go ahead and select her phone number. I'm going to Control B, bold, and I'm going to go up to my font size here and pick the bigger font size. So that's starting to come together. And then the last thing down here at the bottom, I'm going to hit Enter, and I'm going to go ahead and give a text, some link text that says email me. And we're going to create a hyperlink for that that's going to take to a contact form. But first of all, let me go ahead and select all of this here, including the picture here, and go ahead and right justify that. So that's going to put it on the right-hand side and have a nice right edge alignment over there. This center cell, you can go ahead now. You've got some extra space in here, so you can, if you'd like, you could take this center cell and bring it over a little bit like that. And that way you can see your text go a little bit wider. And this paragraph of text here, now if you can see if this works, but you can go ahead and come up and do a full justify perhaps and see that might clean that up so it's nice and squared on both sides. Again, you could do left, you could do center, or you could do full justify. Again, these are just personal preferences, whatever you think looks best. So we are nearly done here. I'm just going to make a note about email me. Now you can go ahead and use your email address on a web post, but I highly recommend that you don't, because there are people out there trying to look for email addresses all over the web. It's called harvesting email addresses, and basically they create these huge lists of email addresses that now they can sell and spam to. And so if you want your inbox to be loaded with spam, putting your email address on any website is one way to get your email address out there so that it can be spam. So the better thing to do is to use a contact form. And a contact form usually has a CAPTCHA, which basically means, are you human? And that it's not going to kill all the spam, but it will definitely cut it down. So the way that you can do that in ActiveRain, you notice if I go, I'm going to start up a new tab here. I'm going to go to my blog page, to my blog here. On the right side of all of our blogs, there's a contact form, and people can go ahead and fill this contact form out and hit send. Now, if you want a contact form without all this extra stuff all the way around it, what you can do, kind of a not so obvious thing to do, but once you know how to do it, it's kind of interesting that you have this prospect, is you go ahead and just like fill out your own contact form, but don't put a message, and hit send message. And that will go ahead and create a new page for you. Basically says message can't be blank. But this is now a contact form for you. You know, it's going to say to, and it's going to have your name here. And then you can go ahead and take the URL at the top here, because this is a contact form for you. This is your unique blogging number on ActiveRain, and copy that to the clipboard. And then come back to your signature post. I'm doing a signature for Kat, but you can pretend that I grabbed her contact form. But then I would highlight this text here, go ahead and insert hyperlink, and paste that URL that would have been for Kat's contact form, and then hit save. And then now you have a link that's not your email address, it's to a contact form that people can go ahead and fill out the contact form and hit send, and then you will get a notification within ActiveRain, as well as you will get an email saying that somebody's trying to contact you. So that's what I recommend you do that. So we basically have now created all of the components of your blog signature. So what we want to do now is copy and paste this over into our blog settings page. So my recommendation to you, because when you have a table, it's a little hard to select everything and make sure you get the table, everything. So here, my recommendation is use the source code button. That's going to show a bunch of HTML. Basically, if you use the Control-A or Command-A, it's going to do select all. And then if you want to copy to the clipboard, you can say, I want to copy that to the clipboard, which is Control-C, Command-C, shortcut if you want that. Now it's on my clipboard. So what I'm going to do next, go ahead and close this out. I'm going to come, well, first of all, you should save this post. Let's go ahead and save it. So that way, all that work that we did is not lost. That way, if you ever need to come back to it, you can. Now I'm going to jump over to my home page. I am going to pick my blog from here, blog settings, come down to signature, and basically use that same button here. It's called, insert source code. I want to, whatever you had there before, go ahead and just select it and delete it, and then go ahead and paste it. The code that you had grabbed from the other post, paste it. Now I'm not going to go ahead and do this because this would be changing my actual blog signature and putting Kat's there. But you would paste it, you would hit save, and then on the other page right behind this, you would hit update. So you go ahead and click the update button, so that would update your blog signature. And then you would go ahead and go out and check your blog post, one of your blog posts, and then it would have your new signature on it. So that's it. 20 minutes, we had created a blog signature from scratch. And it's, as you can see, it has all of those essential elements so that people can find you. Let's go back to the slide. So here, this is the result that you're going to get. They're going to know who you are, where you serve, what you do, how else to connect with you, how to contact you. And they'll also be able to see you. That way they can see the friendly face that's behind the name. and be able to connect with you visually, and just to make it a little more human. They want to connect with you. So there you have it. Creating a blog, an effective blog signature. Not that hard. Within 20 minutes, we had just done it all from scratch. So I hope that helps you. And I look forward, if you want to, in the comments, leave me a note that you tried it out. I'd love to come see the signature that you created. So thanks for joining me today on this little video, how to create your blog signature, and you can check out the post for some of the notes that we went over, all of the aspects that you could get some more information from the post as well. Be sure to subscribe to me on ActiveRain, activerain.com/CraigDA, and subscribe also on my YouTube channel. That would be much appreciated. All right, guys, see you all soon. Thanks.